Welcome to the Comeback Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Blake, and I'm here with head coach Connor. And we're ready to kick it. We're going to talk about something really that's dear and important to us in our coaching philosophy at Comeback, and that is helping our clients know their story and how it relates to their fitness and basically their health. So that might sound kind of weird, especially to some of our newer listeners, but if you're around us for a while, it's going to be kind of familiar language that we use. And so I'm going to let Connor kick us off here a little bit what we mean by story, since he's done a lot of like certifications in this, and this is kind of like your wheelhouse, man, as the mindset coach. So what do we mean when we talk about helping our clients know their story and why it matters to them as an athlete and in their fitness?
Yeah. I mean, this is probably my favorite topic to talk about.
Yeah.
One, I actually like it because I feel like it is taboo for so many people. You know, they're just like, what is this and why is it important? Because I was there as well. Like, it's like, why? Like, it's in the past, man. What's in the past is in the past. Like, we've all heard that. But yeah, as an athlete especially, like, it will give you a good roadmap to why you're even where you're at right now, right? And that's kind of like the language we'll use a lot is like, hey, where have you come from and where are you going, right? Like, where have you come from, not even in a location standpoint, but like a home life. Like, what was your home like? Like, what was your relationship to your parents like? Like, where did you go to when you're stressed? And like, how has that kind of led you to where you're at today? And why that's so important as an athlete, I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. It's like, why do you get so upset after your workout? And why are you wrapping your identity into your sport? Like, why do you have these really high highs and really low lows? Like, if we dig into your story, it is so eye-opening, and you can experience a lot of healing just from like looking back to say, man, this is kind of where this all started. And the reason why we want to do that with our athletes is because realistically, like, the workouts, nutrition, all that stuff is great, and to us it's very easy for us to coach that because we have had so much experience in it. But where people go wrong and over again is they hit these roadblocks, and it's our job to help you figure out why are you continuing to hit these roadblocks.
I love how you said that.
That has to do with something that's in our stories, right? It's like, why do we start something that we always quit it, right? Why do we always get super excited about something and then it just kind of fizzles out, right? So a lot of the times we look back at our stories and be like, man, like, you know, we're actually doing this fitness thing maybe to please somebody else or to get the acceptance of somebody else or to be seen by somebody else. So it's like, hey, let's figure that out first. Let's heal from that, so then we're not approaching things from an unhealthy standpoint, because realistically you're going to burn out doing that, and that's what we see a lot of times. So
Totally. Yeah, I can see in clients I've coached, like I was just listening to you and I'm like, oh man, there's like 5 stories that come to mind right there, you know, like of people I've coached, but I won't even use them. Like, I'll use myself since I have a little liberty to do that. But like, even insecurities I've had like over the years is like, there's things I just wouldn't attempt because I'm not naturally good at them. And as a former athlete, I'm not used to things not becoming more natural or somewhat easy. And then if it's a challenge, I just avoid those parts of the workout, or I don't do those. And then I'm like, why am I not okay with like just not being good at this? In my story, I think it's just like the insecurity of like, you can't be a coach and not be good at something in fitness. And it's like, where did that come from? Like that, where did I create that in my story? And just digging into that, and then like being nice to myself, that like humility as a coach would really look like doing the same thing I ask my clients to do, right? Which is just try things out, figure it, like, let's try to get in there and figure out why this is worth doing. Why do we want to learn how to do this? And then what is it that like we're hoping to get out of this? Is it something that is, I can show myself that I could do this, which would be like a healthy response? Or is it like, now I can tell those people who told me I sucked at fitness, like I'm good at fitness? It's like kind of like a show them thing, right? And then we can digest in that. But the best part is, kind of switching subject just a little bit, but staying on subject, is people who like come to me who I start doing this with in coaching. They're always like, hey man, like, you're not my therapist. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be your therapist. You should, matter of fact, you should go to a therapist. I go to a therapist too, right? But like, I am trying to like coach you. And part of that is I can't avoid that this is something that is holding you back in your fitness. And I'm trying to help you connect those dots. And once they get that, like they actually like love it and they start opening up, and it becomes it makes the whole coach client relationship so much richer. Have you experienced that yourself?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. You know, we're not here to say, hey, hire us as your therapist.
Yeah,
because I'm a big advocate of counseling. Like, I think everybody should be in some sort of counseling, whether that's, you know, some kind of mentorship or whatever. But I think where we go wrong, even as humanity, is understanding like, hey, we're designed from the get-go to be vulnerable with other people. And that doesn't mean everybody, but it means that you need to have at least more than one person in your life that you're opening up to, that they know the hard parts about your life. And that person's safe and you can trust that person. All right, that's a whole nother story of like what do those people even look like in your life. But yeah, that's the thing, especially for a coach. Like we can't understand, you know, who you are as a person if you're just like, hey, how was your day? And you're like, oh, it's great. Or like, how's the workouts going? Oh, it's okay. Like be honest with us, right? I tell all of our clients that from day one. It's like and this is from Jake, and Jake's gotten this from a pastor, but like your root of anger is always going to be from miscommunicated expectations, right? So if we don't know where those communications lie or your expectations lie, like we're never going to be able to get on the same side, right? So it's like, that's the thing. It's like, this is way more than counseling. It's more so like, hey, this is just a relationship I want to build with you. Yeah. And I think in like everyday life, people are not used to having relationships like this. I'm like, this is what a healthy relationship looks like. Yeah. Right. And I think that's where people go so confused. Like, well, you're wanting to know so much about me. I'm like, yeah, like, cause I care about you. Right. Like if it's I'm almost like, you know, slapping you in the face if I'm like never even asking you, hey, how's your family? Like, how was your vacation? Like, because then it's like, then it's just like, hey, I'm just looking to get paid, and that's not why I'm in this. Right. No. So I think that's a bigger thing. Is like the whole reason why I want to do this, and you're kind of saying this earlier, Blake, is this is my ministry, and I want to show people like this is how healthy relationships should look like, and how you should be living your life fully. Right. It's way more to do with just working out.
100%. And yeah, well said, Connor. Really well said. I think too, like when people go through life, right, and we're trying to do a lot of big things. Like a lot of the people we'll work with are trying to be parents. They're trying to, you know, love their spouse. They're trying to climb the ladder at work. They're trying to do all kinds of stuff. Like you don't have to do everything on your own. Matter of fact, people who do well usually have people help get them there. And as a coach, I always like to think of it as what we're trying to do is help you become more autonomous, but we're like the behind the scenes, you know, person who wants to push you and make you the hero of your story. So, and part of that is kind of facing the demons in your story or facing the insecurities or the hard parts of your story. So the number one thing you got to feel when you hire a coach, in my opinion, is like trust. And it needs to be somebody that you feel like you can start trusting us, and then we continue to buy your trust. And we do that in lots of ways. Like in a program design way, we want to do that by setting it up and showing you that it's working, right? There's like those nuggets of like, oh, wow, I can do more push-ups than I did 3 months ago, right? You're like, okay, Connor does know what he's talking about. Or like, oh, like eating more protein does help me get leaner. Like my in-body scan's better. Like, it's like, cool. But then there's those other moments where it's like, I want you to trust me. Like I have a client, she does this self-doubt every time she gets into her. And so I actually talk to her about her mindset when she approaches the bar, when she approaches whatever fitness we're doing, and like having those positive things. And she laughs now, and she called me her counselor. I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's some legal trouble right there. But just trying to help her with that, because I know her so well and her tendencies in that way that helps her get through it. And when she does it, she can actually do better in the fitness test or the exercise or whatever we're doing, because her head's in the right space. Like you can't escape. We have this weird idea that we compartmentalize like the brain from the body from the spirit, and like they all go together. Like if you get like a bad night of sleep and you eat a bunch of sugar and you get up and you think you're going to be a nice person the next day, like the tendency is probably not so nice. Like you're just like, there's a lot of things going against you. If you woke up and you got a bunch of text messages talking about somebody quit your service, or they're, you had somebody's quitting working for you, or something highly stressful, and you go about the rest of your day and you're going to go hit your workout and do a 1-rep max back squat, like probably going to be difficult because that stuff's still in your head. It's not like you just leave that at the door and you're like, I'm ready to go do it.
Right.
And so what I find is like most people don't know how to connect all those dots, and then they're like, I'm getting worse, I suck at fitness. And you're like, but seriously? Like, do you realize what your week was like? Like, you got in a fight with your spouse, like your kid got suspended from school, and like, the dog, peed and pooped all over the house this morning, and you had to clean it up before you went to work and you were late. Like, of course your back squat was going to probably not feel that great today.
Exactly.
Like, and maybe that's not the biggest thing in your life at this point, so those are the conversations we're trying to have with people as we try to help them get better at fitness, health, and achieve their goals. But at the same time, making those connections. And it might sound really simple, but it's not something that's easy to do by yourself. Like you and I both have had coaches that have kind of walked with us through that, and we've done that with many clients. But like, I can remember when I was doing all this on my own and just not making sense of it. Like, I think I made the joke with you when I was in seminary. I remember doing like interval metcons and then studying Greek in between. And I thought like that was fine. Like I was like 2 birds, 1 stone kind of thing, right? And now I'm like, that was the dumbest thing ever. Like that's probably why I failed Greek too, right? Like I was doing metcons and Greek homework at the same time. So anyways, any final comments on this one? I love this one. I feel like we could talk 20 more minutes on it. But
man, this is my mind just goes all over the place because this is to me. I even think back to when I was competing and I was an athlete in college. Like, I just wish I had this as a resource, like someone to help me kind of like work through my mind and everything that's going on. Because realistically, man, like that is the main component. When we talk about sports and goals and anything in life, like the mental side of things comes into play so much more than the physical aspects, right? So it's like I am having these conversations more and more, especially in today's world, right? When it's just you're on social media and you're comparing yourself, and you're like, like when I hear somebody has a goal of like, hey, I want to bench press this amount of weight. I'm like, well, why do you? It's like, well, my buddy and his buddy does this, and I saw this guy on Instagram that did it too, and then I saw this TikTok. I'm like, but realistically, right? Like if nobody else bench press in the world, like, would you want to do? And like, probably not, right? And that's the thing. It's like, and it's like, where does that come from, though, right? Because it didn't just start from social media, right? It's like social media is now an outlet for people to compare themselves. So it's just sad, but it's also gives me so much hope and joy to be like, man, this is why this stuff works so well. Because in today's world, like people need it, man.
Yeah, and we're lonely. Like, I love having a coach, even though I've been doing this for a long time and feel like I can make my own workouts. I don't feel like I need someone to help me with that. But I like to not think about it. But I also like knowing someone's in my corner to like give me another set of eyes and 100%. Call me back to center is kind of what I call it. Like, because everybody can drift. Every ship can get off course, right? And like my coach has just been really helpful at keeping me centered, where it's like, dude, why are you mad that you're not podium at this CrossFit competition? Like, you're a dad of 3, and like you've never told me that's what you really wanted. I'm like, you're right. Like, I think I just got caught up in comparing myself to everybody this weekend, and I'm okay being 3rd place or 4th place or whatever at the bottom. I just want to have fun and be able to throw down still. In conclusion, real quick, like, give us a quick, because I'm new to the team, right? So we have a mindset coach on staff for a lot of clients. Share a little bit about him and what we offer with that as part of our service, and then maybe we can conclude after that on a couple resources. Like, I have a couple in mind of where we could point some people if they want to learn more about how to engage their story. And then we'll conclude after that. So
Right.
tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about our service we have.
Yeah. So, for most of our clients that kind of like choose the elite package route, like we really want to continue to treat them like they're an athlete, right? Like I think I want to be called an athlete until I'm literally 70 years old, right? So I'm always choosing that route. So like we have a guy on staff, his name's Joe Jardine, and I love Joe. Joe is actually a guy who's mentored me, and I meet with him very, very frequently. And he has just taught me a lot. And what he gives to our community of our athletes is just like a plethora of knowledge. Like he's gonna take you to like what it's like to like work through your game day nerves, right? Or if you have a week of testing, you're retesting your 5K row, or you're retesting your like max pull-ups in a 5-minute window, like whatever it might be, or you're gonna go do your Ironman for the first time. Like, how do you handle nerves leading up to that, the day of? How do you come down from a competition like that? Or it can even be, hey, like, how do you just go through the day and manage your time and stress and your workouts and your life? Like, that's the real stuff we need to hear, because it's like, okay, maybe we've done this story work, but like now we're here, and now I need help like managing it all, right? So I think it's a really good bridge for us us to have him on staff, because he literally will just cover so many different parts of our emotional well-being. And he says something, man, I love it. It's you can only be as mentally tough where your emotional wellness is, right? So it's like if my emotional wellness is like a 7 out of 10, like I'm only going to be able to be mentally tough for a 7 out of 10, right? So it's like, I love that, man. So it's like he will really teach us how to like bring back that threshold so that we can continue to like dig deep in life. Because that's another thing that has to do a lot with your story, right? Like, why is your threshold only a 7 out of 10? Like, where can we make up some room here so that's like when life gets tough and your schedule's chaotic, like how can we continue to do the things that we know that bring us like health and wholeness? So
love that. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, couple things we'll point some of the listeners to that would be really good resources. For me and my wife, like understanding kind of a little bit more of your childhood, and it's more of a spousal book, but like The Way We Love is a really, really good book. I highly recommend taking their quiz. You can do online. You can do it in like 5 minutes, and it's very, very helpful. But doing that, obviously, like Enneagram stuff's helpful. And then a lot of Dan Allender stuff, which I know you've done a lot of his stuff that's been helpful for me, just to kind of engage with how do you think about your story. It's definitely more from a theological perspective, but like I said, I think I said it many times in this podcast, they're all kind of connected to me. So
For sure.
those are some good ones. I think the podcast, The Places We Find Ourselves, is a really good podcast if you're not a reader. And those are the kind of top 4 for me. How about you?
Yeah. And it's funny because like I've never thought of myself as a reader, but like going into this stuff, man, I love it. I'm just looking at my bookshelf right now, and I would say the one on the top, like I tell most people about, is Unwanted, which is by Jay Stringer, and he's actually been mentored by Dan Allender. And I love the podcast, Places We Find Ourselves, like that. I would put that up there as well. But I just think even starting with just like that. What was that quiz you talked about?
Love. I
can't even remember what you said.
I can't remember what I said.
I
The way
think
we
like even the Enneagram,
how we love,
even
how we love,
how we love. Like I think that those things are so important because they can give you a good idea of like, hey, what kind of like, where are your habits and your personality like kind of like steering you right now? Because then when you go and read these books and you listen to these podcasts and stuff, it'll kind of give you a good idea of like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. Like I can relate to that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think another good one, if you want to get a little more biological and neurological, is The Soul of Shame is a really good book. I read it a couple years ago. Gosh, what is his name? But he's a Dan Allender guy too. But it was really good. It was just it helped you understand what shame does in your brain and how it can kind of basically makes you spiral when you get triggered. And then learning how to come out of that, understanding your story so that you can not spiral as bad. But we've all done that, and sometimes we do that in fitness, and we're not counselors like we've said for a million times on here, but we do want to make sure that we help our clients and people we interact with understand their story and how fitness is bigger than just reps and times. Yeah. So, hey guys, good being with us. If you want to reach out, you can hit Connor and me on our DM us on Instagram, or you can head on over to Comeback Athlete Instagram and DM us there if you're interested in getting to know more about our services. We'd love to hear from you. Peace.